Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are talking about a Netflix movie that is called Rock My Heart, which I know sounds like a really, really bad Bon Jovi song, but I swear that's not what we're talking about. Because if we were, I would sound way more angry. But anyway, on the surface, this movie really does not come off as something that I would particularly watch, because to be quite honest, it really isn't. But I'll throw out the same example I use every time, and that is The Incredibles. That is a movie that is very clearly geared towards kids and is meant to be kid-friendly, but on the low, it's actually a really, really good movie underneath all that. I'm not saying this movie is anywhere as good as The Incredibles, but the same principle applies because it was actually not bad, surprisingly. The basic plot of the movie is it centers around a young teenage girl who's a little bit of a wild child because she was born with a heart defect. So one night when she's going a little crazy, she gets into a crash and then she ends up at the hospital. But she remembers seeing something that made her happy, so she ends up going back to the crash site and she kind of retraces her steps, and she ends up stumbling across a horse that is owned by an older man who has a lot of trouble taming the horse. And since the horse is also young and kind of reckless, the young girl and the horse form a bond together. At which point the old man decides that he's going to teach this young lady how to race horses, and then they get prepped up for a race that's going to happen in a few months, and that's basically the movie. Now again, this movie, not really my cup of tea, but you know what? It was actually not that bad. I found myself actually really caring about what was going to happen at the end of the movie. And the movie doesn't have a super original premise necessarily, but as long as it's executed properly, that can still make it a pretty enjoyable watch. And on the surface, the movie kind of felt like it could have been like some type of Lifetime movie, but it just so happens to be in German. But the reality was, this movie wasn't cheesy just solely for the sake of being cheesy. It was like there was some feeling behind it. There was emotions. I actually connected with some of the characters. I totally bought the relationship the girl had with her parents, because they love each other, but they just don't quite see eye to eye. That was very reminiscent of what it's like to be a teenager. The old guy who played the kind of Mr. Miyagi role, that whole dynamic worked out pretty well, and there's also the subplot of him being afraid of losing his farm because he doesn't have enough money, which is partially why he bought the horse to go in the race in the first place. So that subplot was also believable. The young girl and her romantic interest was kind of like, that was alright, I didn't mind that so much. There were a few corny romantic moments, but that was kind of to be expected. But the thing about her love interest is he also has had some heart problems, so the two of them kind of connect on that level, which seemed pretty far-fetched and convenient, but at the same time, it allowed for them to have like these really meaningful conversations about life and death and finding meaning and really caring about what you're gonna do the next day or whether or not you want to live at all to begin with. Which leads me to my next point about this movie, is that a lot of movies, even if they're geared towards kids, they don't tend to go dark as much as they used to. Because if you think about it, The Lion King could basically be a mafia movie if you just switched it around a little bit. But either way, this movie did go to some dark places, and I actually felt really bad for the characters. There is one thing that happens about an hour into the movie that is super convenient, and there are no consequences whatsoever when it happens. It was just kind of a silly ex machina to push the plot forward, and it just kind of seemed like it was lazy writing. But realistically, that was the only glaringly bad thing about this movie that I could think of. Because I felt like this movie had a very good overall vibe, because it made you feel things, but it made you feel things with a purpose. It didn't do it just for the sake of tugging at your heartstrings. But the very best thing about this movie was definitely the music. Granted, the music was very heavily suggestive for a lot of it, but it wasn't so in your face that it was annoying. There was really only one, maybe 2 points where the music was really loud and really telling you to feel a certain thing. But all of the other times, there would be a scene that was about to take place, and the scene would just kind of slowly build and build, and then the music would kick in at a certain point. So the soundtrack felt like it was accentuating everything that was happening as opposed to trying to take the reins, pun intended. And they also used the song Gimme Sympathy by Metric, and I'm a sucker for that song. But anyway, guys, overall, I probably won't ever watch this movie again because it's really not my style. But I gotta call it like I see it, and I had a good experience watching this movie, and I thought the subplots were all good, the characters were cool, like, I had no real issue with it. So based on that, I think I'm gonna give this movie a 7.8 out of 10. I definitely recommend it, even if it's a little bit paint by numbers, but the movie had a solid foundation, and that's more than I could say about some movies. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this movie? Have you heard of it? Hop in the comments, let me know what's up. And as always, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, comment, share it on social media, do all that other shenanigans. And I will catch you guys next time.